Hey, good evening, folks, and welcome to the 6 o'clock news on SBYnews.com. I want to start out tonight by congratulating Miss Tina Perotta and Anne Weisman, voted in as 2 of the top 100 women in the state of Maryland. This is an honor that is out to 100 women in the entire state, and these 2 have been selected, similar to Debbie Campbell in the past, and many, many other local Eastern Shore women that are so well deserving of this particular honor. And we want to personally, I know Tina Perotta, I know Anne Weisman. They are 2 incredible women that do incredible things for our communities, and my personal congratulations goes out to you. I'm sure you guys join me in that statement. Moving on, let's talk about George Collins. Folks, this is the gentleman who owns the house on Waller Road that we did an article about last week in reference to him tagging his own home. Boy, did things escalate since then. I've had, 50, 60, 70 text messages from this man who is clearly unstable. He will not stop harassing me, and of course, you know, I'm letting it go because I feel for the guy. I feel sorry for the guy. I could have had him arrested twice, and I chose not to go down that route. But hopefully he calms down and realizes that, you know, if he's going to sit there and spray paint the front of his house and put pornographic material on his vehicle, he clearly needs to regroup and perhaps see somebody that can get him a little help and turn his life around, because he's a young guy. He's 39 years old. Don't know what the total issues are, but the man needs some help. Moving on, let's talk about Wayne Barrall and the post we put up last week. There's about 145 comments on that post. You know, it's a shame to see some of the firefighters attacking one another, career versus volunteer. In a previous post, Mr. Brian Records really put it out there about brotherhood and the fact that these guys really need to stop bickering and attacking one another, and I happen to agree. You know, I really wish you guys would tone it down and take it easy and not pick on one another. You know, it just seems to go the opposite direction. You're not helping yourselves. You're putting attention to topics and issues that really make you guys look bad. You know, there's rumor out there, allegedly Wayne Barrall and now Bill Gordy are involved in one of the new anti-Albero sites out there. You guys should be careful about who the ownership is of these websites, because they can be found out. The final story I'd like to talk about is the Ferry. Yesterday, the Daily Times did an article about the Ferry, and they implied that it costs $300,000 a year to operate, expense-wise. Now, folks, I don't know what and if Rick Pollitt is trying to use the Daily Times to promote certain issues, and allow me to explain, because this is a little complicated. It turns out that the Ferry does not cost $300,000 a year. That $300,000 expense is over 3 years, but the Daily Times doesn't say that. And you have to wonder why. Is Rick Pollitt trying to repeal this tax cap and impress upon the taxpayers that things are costing more than they really are? I don't know, but it's something that needs to be dug into, because there's other things about this Ferry that the Daily Times didn't express either, and I'm very surprised at their lack of professionalism on this. It turns out that $75,000 of that $300,000 is paid for out of Somerset County. That's not mentioned in their article. The other thing that's not mentioned is the overtime. You know, the article talks about $20,000 in overtime expenses. Folks, you need to understand, first of all, I challenge that. I challenge whether or not there's actually a $20,000 expense. I don't believe it's anywhere near that. Secondly, the people that operate that ferry at this current time, if they go on vacation, usually someone who's part-time fills in. If they can't, then they'll use overtime to pay for someone to run the ferry. Folks, we're not talking about $20,000 here in overtime. It just doesn't happen. It's just not right. You know, you got to figure, even if these guys took 2 weeks a year of vacation, let's just figure, okay, and there's 2 or 3 of them, that's 6 weeks. 6 weeks worth of salary does not come to $20,000 worth of income or a salary that's paid out for a part-time person. So I hope the Daily Times can dig further back into this article. They won't. They'll ignore it from this point forward. You know, they don't expect to get snagged and be accountable for things like we catch them at. But I also want people like G.A. Harrison and Michael Schwartz and people along that line to understand that what I'm sharing here is facts. What the Daily Times did not share clearly is not facts. And if they want to dig into this further and deliver more concrete information on this, I welcome that. I think it's important for people to realize that there are twists and turns coming around the corner here, that people are under the impression that there are more expenses out there than there are. Okay? Look, we don't have a Fernando Guerrero free ticket giveaway tonight, but we might have one tomorrow night. We'll certainly have them this week. We really appreciate you guys coming here. And let me close with this. I am not going to produce on a regular basis a Saturday TV show for WRDE. And I want to announce that here so that everybody understands. Folks, I'm so overwhelmed with stuff. The weekends are getting nicer. I want to spend some time with my family. So certainly throughout the summer I'm going to back away from that. If something arises where I can get the opportunity to sit down with Rick Pollitt or Mike Lewis or Ivan Barkley, you know, or the likes, then perhaps I'll do a show. Perhaps I'll do it with WRD. Perhaps I'll just put it on Salisbury News. But right now, I'm just not going to tie myself down to being committed to a show every week. It really is next to impossible to do, because a show takes us a good 2 days out of the week to do. So I appreciate the support. I appreciate everybody going to WRD. They are a great TV station regardless. But while I'm not being paid to do so, I'm going to spend time with my family. And I hope you guys can understand that. And I appreciate you being here today. We will see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming and have a great evening. Good night.